those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. Okay, now I'd like to welcome Phil and Ross here for the CEO and CFO update. You've got a few things to cover here. The CCO stuff will be covered in a separate section. Is Ross still here? Where is he?
He's on his way.
Oh, he's on his way. We'll try and keep this to questions today. Otherwise, we'll go on forever like last week. Thanks very much. Phil, you read this with Ross to follow, please.
Thanks, Your Worship. Morena councillors, and thanks for the generally supportive feedback I've had to some correspondence earlier in the week about how we might contain or speed up this section of the agenda in the kind of broader interest. Ross will talk to the detail of this, but I'm pleased to start off with by saying that we've sustained the positive financial management story, with the council being $56 million net favourable to budget, well, we're getting pretty close to the end of the financial year, Madam Deputy Mayor. But look, we're in good shape, and as I say, Ross will talk to the detail of that. I do note this at a group level, $3.5 billion of capital expenditure, 95% complete year-to-date against budget. So underneath that story, and again Ross will talk to this, a huge amount of work on infrastructure and otherwise in this period. As the Mayor said, I'm not covering CCO change matters in this section. We have a separate item on today's agenda, so we'll talk to you at that time when we come to that item. A few other things. The Future Fund Bill, the legislation supporting that, has been through the Governance and Admin Select Committee. They'll now report on that, but I can tell you that we have been advised no changes were recommended following the Select Committee stage of that, so good progress there. I can tell you and I can't go into any detail, but I can tell you we expect to hear something early next week regarding the regional deal proposal that was put to central government. Those proposals have been to Cabinet this week for consideration. In the recovery area, things are still tracking in line with our forecast to have all the buyouts complete by the end of this year. The forecast remains at 1,215 properties, and obviously as time goes by there's increasing confidence in that number, with more than 800 or so now complete. Service levels and customer satisfaction are stable across the key areas that we measure. I won't go into more detail. I thought you might be interested to know that there's been a month-on-month increase in resource consent applications, 13% increase this month compared to last, and 11% increase in building consents this month compared to last. So perhaps a little indication in terms of broader economic and development activity in that, but I am just cautiously making that point because that's a 1 month view, of course, and it's still climbing back from some earlier highs. I can tell you that the agreement over the St. James is now in place. All the conditions have been met, and the government contribution, financial contribution, is now in our bank, including actually an additional $1.5 million for contingency purposes on that project. So good to be at that point. We have formalised, I'm covering quite a broad territory here. I'm going from restoration of a heritage building to dog de-sexing, but We have formalised a partnership with the SPCA that will see 445 desexing operations complete. I want to make the point, though, that alongside the other work that we have underway in this space, there is probably more to do, and we are continuing to look both at the legislative, the legislation and what else we can do, particularly in the area of accelerating the level of desexing to get on top of this numbers problem going forward. So more news to follow as we work through what we might be able to do to accelerate that further in the next year. Election preparations, you'll be thrilled to know, are well underway and continuing, with the nomination period not far away. I'm sure that's on your radar. There have been 60 election candidate information sessions complete now, so that's part of our in fact, my responsibility to promote the opportunity of election and voter participation downstream. We have won some further awards from the Public Relations Institute for public engagement on the local alcohol policy, won an award for that, and I'm pleased to say that in Auckland Council, this is part of our emerging and leadership development efforts that have really stepped up in the last 18 months or so. Our team of young emerging leaders won the National Management Challenge, best of 14 entrant councils in the country, and they now go to Australia to compete against the Aussies, with some financial support outside of council, I note. I hasten to add. We also won for the Buzzley Youth Engagement Tool, which some of you will be familiar with. We also won the National Award for Digital Innovation in the last year. Just finally from me, the team has progressed work. I've talked to this in the last couple of these monthly sessions, that I felt we needed to do some work to communicate to the community what we were doing in terms of flood resilience, but also where we might have limitations and need to manage expectations of the potential for future buyouts and what have you. Now, I'm a little bit mortified by this because it was done quickly on Friday night, and I'm not presenting in my best mode, but I'm going to show you a 2-minute video. The point being that it's part of a wider effort to let the community know what we are doing in this space, what's coming in terms of plan change activity for flood resilience purposes, and what people can do to help themselves in terms of being ready for flooding. So part of a package of stuff that is going to be, that is part of a campaign that kicks off essentially now for 1 July. So apologies for my role in this. I don't pretend to be a great actor, but Sandra.
That's interesting.
In 2023, Tamaki Makaurau faced its worst days in modern times. In one evening, we got more than a month's worth of rain. A few weeks later, a cyclone wreaked havoc on many of our communities. The severe weather events were devastating. They had a profound impact that cannot easily be forgotten. But we need to talk about what lies ahead. How we prepare for weather events and the new reality of our everyday forecasts. Let's start now. We all choose to live here in Auckland, a region as diverse and varied as the communities that live within it. Stunning maunga and valleys, city and town centres, suburbs, farms, forests and islands. We have built our region over time, And the fact is, 50 or even 20 years ago, we didn't fully appreciate the risks of climate change. We can't undo the past, but we can prepare for a more resilient future. Auckland Council has increased its emergency response capability. We're investing in stormwater and infrastructure resilience projects. We're challenging the planning rules to make sure natural hazards and flood risk are priorities when building new homes. Those are some of the things we are doing. There are also things we can't do, however. For instance, we can't buy every house that is at risk or engineer solutions to every stormwater problem. The cost to ratepayers as a whole would be prohibitive. Now we're asking you what you're doing to make sure you care for yourself and the things that matter most. Start by knowing the risks and making an emergency plan. Learn about the unpredictability of thunderstorms so you can follow natural warnings. And prepare your home by making changes to reduce flooding. Think about your insurance, or have a conversation with your landlord or tenants. Together, we can be a more resilient Tamaki Makaurau.
Yes.
If you could pre-record your,
As I say, slightly mortifying, but you'll understand that its place in terms of a broader campaign that we need to run over the, well, not just the next few months, but beyond. Enough from me. Ross.
I don't have a video here to play, but there is a really helpful video online on our Auckland, animated video that explains how the rates valuation works and how it flows through to rates. So I don't have a starring role in it, but it's kind of still helpful for people. I won't play it for you, but it's quite useful. So this month, so annual budget, so things are well progressed with the annual budget, and that's on the agenda later today for you to adopt the final annual budget for next year, and also another item to then strike the rates for next year as well. So that's all based off the decisions the governing body confirmed last month, and then today is just about implementing those decisions through those other items on this agenda. One of the key things that's required, a key input for setting rates, is the rating valuations. So very pleased that the Valuer General certified all of the rating valuations on the 6th of June, and that meant we were able to release the rating values to Aucklanders from the 10th of June. So that's all gone out. As I said, lots of good information on our Auckland, including a really cool explainer video with animation, etc. There is also a memo that's been sent out to all elected members that explains some of the key movements and trends, how that flows through to rates, and a bit of analysis, local board by local board, in terms of both valuation movements and the rates movements that flow from it. I guess, a few important things to note on those values, that they are, point in time estimates. They are based off, estimates as at May 2024. They're not intended to be estimates of current market. They're purely there to share rates. It's not a direct relationship. The average residential value's gone down by 9%. That doesn't mean that rates go down by 9%. It's all about sharing the rates. So the values are purely for sharing rates fairly between ratepayers. So the 9% average residential valuation, if a property's seen that, they can expect the average 5.8% rates increase. If someone's had a bigger fall in the value between those two valuation dates, they can expect a lower rates increase. If the value's held up higher, they can expect an above average rates increase. So 9% was a reduction for residential. We saw commercial fall by 5%, but we saw rural and livestock properties go up 4%, and industrial properties went up 5%. So it's kind of old news. It's a function of property markets and the economic conditions that have played out over the last few years that have been well covered. So that's property valuations. In terms of the council's finances, they are looking good still. In the CapEx space, as Phil mentioned, $3.5 billion invested for the 11 months through the end of May. That's 95% of budget delivered. Auckland Transport's running at 91% delivery, Watercare at just under 80%. Those figures do include $674 million of Category 3 buyouts completed year to date so far. In terms of operating budgets across the group, it's looking favourable. It's $126 million favourable year to date, for the group, and that includes 56 million for Auckland Council that Phil referred to. That's direct revenue, 1% favourable. We've got favourable movements in regulatory revenue, which has been the case throughout the year, but offset by lower public transport and water revenues. We've seen a bit of an uptick in IGC revenue, and it's that may well be people getting their water connections in ahead of price rises that kick in next month. And the expenditure side across the group, 3% or 96 million favourable to budget. Down a little bit from how it was tracking last month, which is really just due to some timing changes compared to budget. But overall, all looking very favourable. For Auckland Council, achieved the 66 million savings target for the year ahead of schedule, and we'll be adding to that, and there'll be a slightly bigger number once the year's completed, and there'll be a full report going to the Revenue, Expenditure and Value Committee summarising all the savings for the year in due course. Those are the key updates. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you for those presentations. I quite like the ones where you're doing a video. We might have to get you guys videoing the next ones that are a bit more lively with music and things. Nevertheless, Councillor Turner stayed awake, and so here's a question.
Thank you. Two questions to you, Ross, just from my understanding. So we had $3.5 billion worth of CapEx expenditure. Overall expenditure, I think is, in my head, is 5 to 5 point something billion. So our OPEX expenditure for the last 11 months for this financial year is going to be about 1.5 billion. Is that, am I right in just in a round sum?
No, so the OPEX number is separate. So the direct expenditure for the group is year to date is 3.6 billion. So we spent 3.6 billion of operating expenditure across the group, as well as the 3.5 billion of capital expenditure.
Okay.
So you can add them together, and that's about over $7 billion of spending.
Thank you. And my last question is for the Chief Executive, if I can. In that lovely video, we showed all the council actions or CapEx, and as soon as we showed the people what we were asking them to do, we showed maintenance, their gutters and their drains, etc. Is council going to put more prioritisation going forward on maintenance?
We have already accelerated or expanded the maintenance regime. You'll recall you committed, from memory, $20 million additional for the storm recovery space. Some of that is, or a chunk of that is ongoing for an increased level of maintenance of, catch pit clearing and such like. So it has been stepped up. Councillor, I know your views about the opportunity to step it up even further, but it is at a higher level than what was previously the case already.
And going forward, so that was the start of a going forward thing. We'll have room to keep on that advocacy going forward. Yes.
Yes, I mean obviously subject to your own decisions in terms of the long-term plan next year, but that additional money continues, so we can sustain it at the level for longer.
Councillor Foley, please.
Kia ora, thanks Chair, and thank you Phil and the team. Lots of really positive things to celebrate this quarter. Just have something to bring to your attention about the de-sexing program. There was a bit of confusion when it went out, and I think several of us thought that it was open to the public directly, and then may have inadvertently, given that information out to the public. So if we can clarify that perhaps in our postings, like in our own council postings, that would be good. And also good to hear that we are still looking at other ways that we can extend that program further going into the future, because I think that's really, really needed. Just questions about the buyout. You may have also seen some of the quite negative stories that have come out recently in the media involving some of our Māngere families. Just wanted to know if you could clarify, because some of the issues they bring up is, one, that they felt under pressure to accept the settlement. And I mean, I know that we've been working through a process for some years. So if you could respond to that, something that they said in the story, that they felt like there was only a choice between a rock and a hard place, and they were only given a few weeks to make their minds up. And then secondly, something quite confusing that came out in the story about the valuations. They said that them and their neighbours, the value of their homes had gone down to around 400,000, but next door, the Kainga Order Builds values went up to around 980,000, and I know that there's probably something missing in that information there. I don't know if you can respond to that, but that would be good to do that here. And then lastly, in terms of the video, great video, and just wondering if it's easy for us to share on social media. And if it is, if you can send me a link, and I'd be happy to share that. Kia ora. Thank you.
Just taking the that last question first. Yes, there are a range of other resources as well. This was an example, so we'll make sure that you're equipped with some stuff that you can use in your own social media and otherwise around that. I would love for you to be part of the outreach to the community in terms of this messaging. I'd have to have a look at any specifics around the buyout scheme experience for people. I have to say it surprises me that a picture's been painted of people only having a very short time to consider. There have been timeframes around this, but actually people have typically had good support, in my view, good support and plenty of time to consider the buyout offer. Of course, sometimes it's not going to meet people's expectations, but it's a very objective and rational process in terms of agreeing valuation, and there are some mechanisms that allow for appeals or for resolution of any disagreements there. But perhaps, Councillor, I'll follow up with you afterwards. Yeah. It's tough and emotional, and I suspect that's part of the what goes to the experience of people in there, rather than arbitrary timeframes on our point of view, from generated by us. I mean.
Kia ora. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Henderson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick one, follow-up from Councillor Turner. I've asked our Healthy Waters in a previous meeting for a financial picture of stormwater maintenance, because we need to know, if we're advocating to raise service levels, we need to know how much it's going to cost, right? Because we've got kilometres and kilometres of stream and everything to maintain. So can I just ask for your assistance, Phil, in following up that request, either, and it might be a CFO question as well, because we just need the financial picture.
Yeah, I'm very happy to. Yeah. Just FYI, Lisa Tocker keeps a schedule of the questions and commitments from these discussions. So it's now, Councillor, on a list of things that we'll follow up on and come back to you on.
Good question, good answer. I've got no further questions. Would you like to retire and have any discussion? Anyone want to raise any comments about what has been a very positive report from the Chief Executive and the Chief Financial Officer? All right, and I'll move that we accept that, and it'll be seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those in favour, please say aye. The contrary, carried. Congratulations, team. That was an hour and a half quicker than last month.